Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and someone asked me to comment on the ethics of something they called guerrilla gardening, which is basically going out into the wilderness and planting crops in a way where ideally they would continue to grow on their own and be able to provide medicine or food to yourself if you ever come back along that path, or other humans, or maybe even animals and stuff like that if they come by and are in need. So people kind of question the ethics of it, partially because some people think that land can actually belong to someone, but you can't. No one created the land, so no one owns it, right? In order for ownership, you have to have created it at the beginning, and then it can be passed on to another person. But if there's no person who created it, then it cannot be passed down, right? So basically, land cannot be owned. You can own things which you create on the land. So if you create a big pasture for your cows and you put a fence around it and you build your home for your family, then you have the right to protect that place, so people don't trespass, so that you feel safe, that what you've built has not been destroyed, so that your family's life is not in danger, and that people aren't going to steal all your food. But you don't actually own the land. You just own the things that you invested your time in on that land. So anyway, so there's that aspect. And then the other aspect is, well, you might be out harming the ecosystem by planting certain things. When I think that is true, there are certain plants which you could put in certain places which would damage the ecosystem. It would harm the wildlife. It would basically, it would take over everything, right? So I would say if you're going to be planting things, make sure you understand how it works. Some people think it's really important to plant things which are native. I don't personally think that that's very important. Everything's moving around constantly, and native is sort of arbitrary in terms of a certain time frame that humanity is looking at. So I don't personally think it's important. But so anyways, I don't think guerrilla gardening is ethically wrong. In fact, I think it is a thing that we probably should be doing, and I actually encourage everyone to do it. So I've shown you guys this. This is a Jerusalem artichoke, or a sunchoke. And I'm out here in the middle of the wilderness, and I planted it in a place where it's going to get water, and it's doing pretty well. It hasn't grown up too much, right? It's about, a little bit bigger than it was when I planted it probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. But this thing is native to North America, if you care about that kind of thing. It's basically a sunflower. It grows on its own, and it basically can survive all seasons. Of course, all the green's going to go away in the winter, but it's going to have little potato-like tubers under the ground, and then the next season those are going to grow up again. So this thing is going to spread on its own. So basically it's like food. It's like storing food in the ground for yourself or for other people. So you can come by in the winter, pull up the stalks if you need something to eat, and there you go. So I think this is probably one of the best things to be planting out in the wilderness, because it produces the most food of any plant per square feet. That's my understanding. I think it's at least up at the top, but some people say it's actually the top. So, and it will do that all on its own without you needing to come and tend to it. So, imagine a world where people were guerrilla gardening all the time, perhaps putting this out here, putting all kinds of other really good hardy foods that can survive on their own, and pretty much everywhere you went in the wilderness there was food, right? Wouldn't that solve a lot of the problems that we have in the world right now? So anyways, I'd say if you're interested, you can pick up some sunchoke or Jerusalem artichoke starts. They'll come in the little tubers. Sometimes people cut them up into little pieces, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think I'd rather have the whole tuber to plant. But even those little cut pieces will grow. And so if you go find a place that's going to get enough water for this thing to grow, just go out there and start planting this thing. If this thing was all over the place across North America right now, would we be worried about the famine that's coming up later this year? By the way, as I've been mentioning recently, but in case people who haven't been watching or haven't been paying attention, I don't remember who it was, but some prominent expert on basically supply chain said that within about, I think, 2 months, we're going to basically be out of food. So even in America, right? So people think, yeah, we're gonna have famine, like in Sri Lanka right now, there's food riots and stuff like that. But they think that that's not gonna come to Western countries, but it definitely is, right? And it's not just the fact that we don't have food, or we don't have, or that fertilizer is super expensive and therefore farmers aren't planting crops, or that diesel is super expensive and is going to continue to get expensive, so that means that we can't ship fertilizer. Trains run on diesel, I believe, and people aren't going to be able to run their tractors for planting and harvesting. And also the food's not going to be able to get shipped anywhere. So there's so many reasons why we're about to experience a famine, and it's going to probably last multiple years. So highly recommend everyone get some food. And also, if you want to, set up a situation where you and people you care about can continually get food without needing to use the system, then guerrilla gardening is a good way to set yourself up for that. It's going to take a little time to get established, but I think you're going to find that it's worth it. So, all right, that's my thoughts on the ethics of guerrilla gardening. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider sharing it. If you'd like to help me out in a more substantial way, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/gift. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether publicly or privately, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/one-on-one. Thanks again for watching.